Welcome back on the AM show. We get into the big stories now. And first off, we're going to be contemplating, yes, as you can see behind me, Bawumia's case for the presidency, his plan, as he put it out yesterday at the University for Professional Studies, Accra, among other things that we're going to be dilating on, including the 15% on VAT that now has been stalled for some more deliberation to be done on. But before I get to my guests, before we contemplate what exactly it is that their thoughts are on the vice president's, release, if you like, let's walk through some of what he said and find out. We'll be sharing this with you. We'd love for you to get on board, get on Joy News on Facebook, and let's know what your thinking is on the different matters the vice president brought to bear. But let's start from here. So here we go. Bawumia's role as chairman of the economic management team. Yeah. As a subcommittee, that is the EMT to cabinet, we do not have any decision-making powers. But I am very proud of the quality of advice we have been providing over the years to cabinet. That's what the vice president said. As a subcommittee to cabinet, that is the economic management team. Mind you, he is head of the economic management team. We do not have any decision-making powers, any. But I am very proud of the quality of advice we have been providing over the years to cabinet. My only concern there, if he knew that, why in the past was he referencing the EMT and talking about what it could or could not do? And maybe even more, with the president himself, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, praising him for being the repository of all economic knowledge and what he's brought to bear on the economy. What does all of that mean? Well, so that's the first bit. Then we get into this one, and we're addressing things he said, okay? As vice president, I am like a driver's mate. Mate, no, or not, Jessica. Yeah. You understand? He's not the one driving. He's not the one at the helm of affairs. He's not holding the steering. He's merely collecting the money and all of that. That's how he depicts himself. I've heard him talk about the fact that he can be likened to an assistant headmaster, not the actual headmaster. If you make me president, I will be in the driver's seat. So that's what he's telling us as Ghanaians. Then again, he says, in respect of tax measures, government's commitment to the IMF versus his proposal, right? So proposed tax reforms for 2024, we're looking at the revision and expansion of taxes on gambling revenue. His proposal, elimination of betting tax. You know that nowadays you bet, you get your returns. Apart from other taxes, a 10% will be taken out of it as tax, okay? 10% component, among other things. And I don't bet. I've never had an interest in betting, but I know people who do, and they shared some of the dynamics with me and how much goes into taxes. Then, removal of selected VAT exemptions, including 15% VAT on electricity. His proposal, elimination on VAT on electricity if it is still on the books. If it is still on the books. We do know that supposedly cabinet has met. Now we're being told there's going to be further engagement on that vis-a-vis labor unions and the threat to demonstrate on February the 13th on the back of same. Then, introduction of the emission tax and the plastic and packaging tax. For him, what's he proposing? Elimination of the emissions tax as well. But let's stay on tax measures. He says, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says, he's going to eliminate the e-levy. The same e-levy that his administration brought to bear with him as head of the economic management team. With all the struggle that Ghanaians went through, civil society, media, ordinary Ghanaians railing against it, he says he's going to abolish it. The only question, and that's what I had for Kweku JC this morning, I feel if it were bad in the first place, why would you bring it up only to reverse it? Why put us through all of that? But these are questions I'll be putting to my guests when we get to them. Elimination of VAT on exploration services, no more import duty on solar panels, tax incentives will be provided for film producers and musicians. I like this though. I must admit, no more import duty on solar panels because, I mean, solar is one of the ways to go. And I know of a lot of entities going that way, though technically, the prices of panels have been reducing globally. Okay? It's not as though it were a novel thing we're doing here. If you look at 3-5 years ago, and I do this because I engage a certain entity that deals in solar panels and installation and everything, so I know, right? It's been going down for years, and it's an alternative, especially owing to the high cost of electricity, among others. So I have some agreement on that. I think it's a step in the right direction. Tax incentives will be provided for film producers and musicians, and a flat tax of a percentage of income for individuals and SMEs with appropriate exemption thresholds set to protect the poor. The question is, who will fit that category? How many people will be involved? And how will it be streamlined so that it's not politicized? Now, in addition, a tax amnesty up to a certain year to individuals and businesses for failures to file taxes in previous years. So some amnesty will be given, after which you have to do the right thing. There will be no manual or paper filing of taxes from 2025. Okay. Any audits by the GRA would be done electronically and facelessly by the GRA, and no entity would be audited more than once in 5 years unless anomalies are detected. Now, in terms of the size of government, this is where it gets interesting, because you have the former president talking about no more than 60, including all the others, deputies, regional ministers, and the rest. Dr. Bawumia says, I would have no more than 50 ministers and deputy ministers. That's what he says. And then, in terms of major policy proposals, here I vehemently disagree. And I've made that point already in the course of the news review. If you missed it, you can grab it, but I'll still be here talking about it. National service will no longer be mandatory. He says, starting an individualized credit scoring this year for easier access to credit at lower interest rates. This credit scoring bit is something that I have personally deliberated on with some people in certain quarters about credit scores and how that could add on to you. But in his personal proposal, we'll have a look at how he wants to implement this and what it would mean. So starting an individualized credit scoring this year for easy access to credit at lower interest rates. Then amend Article 87 of the 1992 Constitution and NDPC or PNDC Act, is it the NDPC Act, Act 479, to mandate the alignment of political manifestos, it's actually NDPC, to agreed broad contours in specific sectors. I would like to see really how this will be executed, especially in light of what we've seen on our political terrain with NDC coming in, NPP coming in, and it's never a national plan. It's a party plan. Party plan. I would like to see how he means to institute this. But then, other proposals amend the 1992 Constitution with key emphasis on ex gratia, the rights of dual citizens, election of MMDCEs, and reducing the power of the president. These are things that are spoken about time without number. We have a president who is too powerful, overweening, overbearing, appointing everybody. And that in itself is a recipe for corruption. And we see it in our system. Amend the 1992 Constitution with key emphasis on ex gratia. I don't know, because at the same time, I've heard talk from the same vice presidents in the past about this whole bit about amending the Constitution and what it means, and we don't need a whole-scale or wholesale amendment. Yeah, we're talking about amendments here. Ex gratia. You know, it's interesting. These very people benefit from it in the past and all that, and then there's talk about we still have ex gratia on our books. Rights of dual citizens. Of course, we also remember cases that have come through in recent times, especially to do with the Asin case, Jachikwason, and that election there. Then the election of MMDCs and reducing the power of the president. Then continuation and improvement of free SHS, one student, one laptop policy for tertiary students through the provision of a zero interest loan. Okay? My interest there, what we've already done with the teachers and how that fared, the distribution of laptops to teachers. How did that go? And now we're talking about one student, one laptop. Well, let's see. Should he be given the nod? Let's see how it goes. So, that's it. His case for becoming president of Ghana. What do you think? I have my take. I have said, and I will repeat, I take no prisoners. I will repeat, listening to the vice president, I was not convinced. But were you convinced? Why were you convinced? What are the parameters you're using? What is your measuring rod? Well, let's hear from our guests joining the conversation, and would love to hear from you as well. At some point, we'll activate the phone lines and take your thoughts. But joining us for this discussion, Dr. Saad Idrisu is an economist, Louisiana Economic Development. He joins the conversation. We'll have others joining the conversation moving forward. Dr. Idrisu, thank you for joining. Let's start with your underlying fundamental analysis of yesterday's presentation by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Thank you. Good morning to you as well as your listeners as whole. I think yesterday, with regards to the online, because being far away, we were on Facebook, the signal was kind of weak. I watched it on yours. I had to skip switching to different stations, whether it was the whole recording or anything else. Probably next time there's a lecture, they really work on that to make sure that people will be able to get good signal to watch it. And again, I'll say is that, I mean, if you observe Bawumia since his introduction into politics, was nominated as a mate. I think one that...
Did you just say since he was nominated as a mate? Did you just say that?
I mean, since he was picked up as a running mate.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean, one thing I do observe is that he's been very consistent with his speeches and his economic lectures. I wouldn't say prior to that we didn't have that much, even though we had it, but it wasn't as popular as it is doing it right now. So he's been able to gain the media attention. Whenever he speaks, it's like the next day becomes trending topics for probably like a week. That is very commendable, I must say. It doesn't matter whether he's speaking the truth or not, but the fact that he's able to even get media attention is something that every politician should always aspire for. But coming to the lecture, the question is it just another rhetoric or say a game changer? From my point of view, I would say it's just another rhetoric, because let me just take you through the economic data before we even come to his own policies that he was outlining. If you look at the economic data to just a certain point in the lecture, I was just probably laughing in my head and wondering how the NDC is going to react, because the NDC or the opposition, they should rather be putting out their economic figures to let Ghanaians know that Bawumia is massaging some of these figures. Because if you look at the current economic figures with real GDP growth, we are currently declining. So how do you say the economy is doing well and you have performed better than we recorded in 2016? As of 2023 quarter one, if you had a real GDP of 4.4%, quarter two, it declined to 3.2%. Quarter three, it further declined to 2.1%. How do you describe such an economy as performing good enough? And that is excluding oil. If you come to including oil, it's the same thing. Quarter one, 2023, it was 3.3%. Quarter two, it declined to 3.2%. Quarter three, it further declined to 2.0%. Now, again, how do you say that with an inflation of 23.2% as of December 2023 is better than the inflation we recorded in 2016 December, which was 15.4%. How do you make such comparison and analysis to say that your economy is better than the previous? And look at food inflation. As of December 2023, food inflation was 28.7%. Now go back to December 2016, food inflation was 9.7%. So compare these two periods. Just looking at this, how do you say that 2023 Ghanaians are better off than they were in 2016 when all the economic indicators are showing otherwise? Look at it again, lending rate. Businesses are currently complaining in 2023 and 2024 because of the borrowing rate. As of December 2020, and this data that I'm reading, they are all from Bank of Ghana. Anyone interested could just go to Bank of Ghana and pull it up. As at November 2016, average lending rate was 32%. So businesses were able to borrow at this rate, averagely. Now, fast forward to 2023.
And before you fast forward, let me just do this. Permit me, I'll come back to you, Dr. Saad Idrisu. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Eko Asifua, Member of Parliament for Otafu, who recently got the nod in the latest MPP primaries. Eko, good morning to you. All right, we'll try to reconnect with him. Back to you, Dr. Saad Idrisu.
So as at December 2023, the average lending rate, that's the credit market rate, is now 33.75. So how do you compare 33.75% to 2016 figure of 32%? And remember that with interest rates and all that, even 1% rise in interest rate, it's a cost to businesses when they are borrowed. So I really don't know which economic figures Dr. Bawumia was quoting to say that the economy right now is better than the economy we had in 2016. Even the agricultural sector that he was talking of, since this quarter, agriculture sector has been on decline from quarter one all the way to quarter three. It's been declining from 6.4 to 6.0 to 5.9. And by quarter four, when it comes out, definitely it's still going to record a further decline. How do you say such a sector is performing? Industry, we don't even talk because industry is growing at negative. Quarter one, 2023, quarter one, negative 2.6. Quarter two, negative 1.8. Quarter three, negative 4.3. So I was really a bit surprised, like how he was so excited and just talking as if, we should award the MPP a gold of medals and award him a gold of medals. When all these indicators are pointing that the economy was better off, businesses were better off in 2016 than they are currently. Even your policy rate currently, December 2023, is 30%. Compare that to 2016, December, when it was 25.5%. So in all honesty, I would say that it's actually the NDC and John Mahama, they rather need to do an economic lecture to point out all these economic indicators. Because like if you keep letting one sector go, Ghanaians will begin to believe that. Meanwhile, they are all not true, according to the Bank of Ghana own data.
Right.
Anyone could check it. It's called, a bunch of data, but you could look through summary of economic and financial as well as other reports. They are all available on the Bank of Ghana website.
All right. So, look through Dr. Idrisu, we'll get into those details shortly. But let me also take the starting comments of Eko Asifua. He is Member of Parliament for Otafu. Eko, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
You sound rather low. I'm struggling to hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Ben, I can hear you.
Okay. Did you ask how I was doing? Is that what you were asking?
Yes.
Okay. I'm okay under the circumstances. I hope you're well too.
Well, I'm well and hearty, Ben.
All right. What do you make of the Vice President's delivery yesterday? And I'm asking for points on interesting areas that you felt were topical, germane to what our national life is, before we get into the real stuff. But what fundamentally did you grasp or take away from the speech yesterday?
Well, let me say a very good morning to your cherished viewers and other discussants. I must say it portrays or shows some glimpses of hope for us as Ghanaians, especially the youth of Ghana. What His Excellency the Vice President yesterday sought to do was a demonstration of where we are coming from as a nation, one, and two, what he has been able to do by accounting for his stewardship as the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, and three, laying down his vision for the people of Ghana when he is given an opportunity to be the President of the Republic, i.e. things that he seeks to embark upon from 2025 and beyond. So for me, the indication I got was that it was clear that he has something under his sleeve that he wants to give to the people of Ghana in terms of his own vision. You know, he was very bold to let the people of Ghana know that he has his own vision when he is given the opportunity to be the President of the Republic. And that is how come there were certain policies under this current regime that he felt or he thinks that when it is his administration, he's going to do it differently. When you look at his policy that he's going to abolish e-levy, this is something that from 2019, 20, 21, 22, thereabouts, it became topical as to how government can raise revenue, or if you like, additional revenue, to be able to fund the numerous government policies of this country. One may ask, but His Excellency the Vice President has been part of this government, and one way or the other has been supporting this particular policy. Now, the answer is very simple. The circumstances that brought about the implementation of the e-levy clearly cannot be the same circumstances from 2025 and beyond, because at the time, because of the introduction of COVID and other challenges that we faced as a nation, we needed that e-levy to be able to make sure that government can fund the numerous projects that we had. Now, 2025 and beyond, government has been able to make sure that there is a revitalization or a transformation of the economy, and for that matter, we may not necessarily need the e-levy so that businesses can have some space to be able to expand. That is very critical. Two, His Excellency talks about how we can increase, if you like, bring about a robust infrastructure, and he seeks to embark on this robust infrastructure by making sure that there is a pivotal, if you like, a big amount
so
of
Eko, these are supposed to be inaugural comments. We've not got into the thick of things yet. I just wanted your brief comments on a number of matters. We are not getting into the nitty-gritty. E-levy and these other matters. We'll get to them and tear them apart, if you don't mind. But you go ahead. I just want you to summarize, because we'll have ample time to get into that.
I just wanted you to know that there were critical points that was made that...
Trust me, Eko, I know. We've gone through the whole document, so I know. But you go ahead.
That's okay. So my initial comment will be that, for me, it brings about some glimpses of hope for us as a nation, and especially the youth. And I believe that His Excellency, the President, the Vice President, has shown that indeed when given the mantle as the President of the Republic, he will be able to transform this nation from where it is today, especially coming from the challenges that we face as a nation.
Do hold for me. Let's head now to Kumasi. We have Love FM's Nanaya Ojima, who will be engaging Beatrice Annan, communications team member of the opposition NDC, on this and other developments. Nanaya, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, Benjamin. Presently, the Building Ghana tour of the NDC is in the Ashanti region, Kumasi to be specific. Already, John Dramani Mahama has done Kumasi. He has held series of the Building Ghana tour in the Ashanti region. But now he's transiting. You know, not long ago, he completed the northern region, and before northern region, he had done the upper east. So presently, he's in the Ashanti region, transiting into other regions. So, but yesterday, the members of the Building Ghana tour had the opportunity to listen in on what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia had to say. I have with me the communication team member of the NDC, and she's in the person of Beatrice Annan, and we'll be having conversation on yesterday's lecture by Dr. Bawumia and the position of the team on that. Lawyer, good morning, welcome to join us.
Good morning, Nana, and I'm happy to be here.
Let's start with the Building Ghana tour. Now you are on transit in the Ashanti region, and I understand that there will be some engagement in the region for a day or two. What are these engagements?
Okay, so first of all, President Mahama has been invited by the Assemblies of God Church. They say it's called Region B, to honor their annual church event. And so this morning, from here, we'll be going to that event. And then we would also pay a courtesy call on Menshia. And then from there, we would head and meet Gao in the Ashanti region. And that will be it. And we move back to Accra to continue Greater Accra with the Building Ghana tour.
So you've been recording the opinions of the people when it comes to the Building Ghana tour. What is the impression that you are getting from the notes you've been taking?
Okay, so the impression I am getting is that more than ever, the lives of people have become worse. The living conditions of people have deteriorated. The businesses of people have been affected. And everywhere we have gone to, it is one chorus that things are getting worse, that many people do not have hope that things will get better. And it's not just the sentiment of the people, but also the indicators show that we are not doing well, we are not in the good place, that we are in a mess, that more than ever, people have lost their businesses, they have lost their livelihood, they have lost their farms to Galamsey, they have lost almost everything they were building on. Young people don't even have hope that if they can't find white-collar jobs, they can even have farms or go into other informal sector, because even those in the informal sector are gradually being driven away by the high cost of living everywhere we went. And you have been on the trip with us. Everywhere we went, dressmakers, carpenters, lawyers, shoemakers, drivers, all interest groups are saying that our lives have become worse off. And we think that it's something that is a bit sad, but we need to take seriously.
Let's talk about job creation. That's where you just ended. Now, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is claiming that over 2 million jobs have been created under the present administration. Are you saying that these numbers cannot be taken as he puts it?
I think that Dr. Bawumia's claim about job creation tells me that this government is not committed to do anything about the current state of our economy and the situation of the many young people. You know, it is fraught with so much lies that I don't know why a vice president will want to descend that low. And let me tell you why I'm saying this. First of all, in February 2021, when the minister designates for employment and labor relations appeared before the vetting committee of parliament, he did mention that the government has created 3 million jobs. Then at a launch in Sunyani at the Ghana Job Fair, he also mentioned that the government has created 5.3 million jobs. Dr. Bawumia himself on 27th April 2023 said that they have created 2.2 million, in excess of 2.2 million jobs. And then yesterday he says that they've created 2.1 million jobs. The inconsistency tells you that government is just churning out data, because it's not possible that you would create this number of jobs and the rate of unemployment will increase from 8% to 13.9%, which is almost a 14%.
Right. So
most importantly, Nana, in the 2021 population census, the Ghana Statistical Service says that Ghanaians who were living without jobs, we had 1.9, a little over 1.9 million. So if you're a government that you've created 1.9 million, I mean 2.2 million jobs to a population that over 1.9 people of working age cannot find job, then we shouldn't have, in fact, we should even have people who are overemployed. So I think that for any politician, and no mean a politician, like the vice president and the flag bearer, to play with the lives and livelihoods of people by just churning out statistics. He never gave you the breakdown of these jobs. He just made a vague statement. We've created 2.2 million jobs. And that's very sad. And it tells you that in the coming years, or the months left for the MPP to exit power, they have no strategy to create more employment.
All right. So, for want of time, we'll have to keep answers to some of these areas that we'll be tackling very short. Now, the Vice President also spoke about abolishing some taxes that he believes are not relevant. Already, the former president has been speaking about VAT on electricity that the government is hoping to introduce. The emission tax, he also has some issues to say about some of the taxes. Already on the ground, there are some people who has asked him to do away with e-levy and also the betting tax. Now the flag bearer of the NPP is also saying that he will look at these taxes and, if possible, do away with all of them. What is the position of the team on this?
I think that we must begin to speak to the Vice President to stop undermining our intelligence. I don't know, and genuinely devoid of partisanship, I think everything is not right with the NPP. I think that either they have so much money that they do not understand the reality. Because how is it that a Vice President who says that as a chairman of the economic management team, he's proud of the quality of advice he's given to his government, and this advice includes the introduction of the e-levy, the emission tax, the VAT on electricity, come to say that all of a sudden I'm not part of the mess for some reasons? You know what, my boss is so useless, for want of a better expression. When you give me the opportunity, I would correct the mess of my boss, whom I advise and whom he took my advice. I mean, it's as if the NPP assumed that we don't think, we don't reason, let's just throw anything, let's have the debate. It doesn't matter the quality of the debate, let's just go on. I think that is a shame, and I think many Ghanaians should join us to call the Vice President out. Because for a point, I thought, is the Vice President hallucinating? Or some way, somehow, what is happening? We were part of the government. We never heard him speak about the e-levy until yesterday, because he wanted to be president. We never heard him talk about the VAT, the emission. And it is not only these three VATs. Under this government, I have tabulated more than 50 different taxes that this government has imposed. So why are you taking out 4? Especially when he came to power on the back of moving this economy from taxation to production. Today, you've imposed 50 taxes. You want to, take 4 out when you come to. It doesn't make sense.
So the flag bearer of the NDC has also been speaking about cutting government expenditure. Now, there's a proposal that the ministers will be limited to 50. I think this is laudable.
I think that, and this is where we have to salute President John Mahama. Listening to Dr. Bawumia's speech yesterday, you could see that the man wants to mimic President Mahama. He's following in the footsteps of President Mahama. And I think that we should be encouraging more of these debates. And I will personally encourage President Mahama to be bringing out these policies, because this is a person that was part of a government that appointed 120 ministers at a point. When did he all of a sudden realize that you could actually manage this country with 50 ministers? This is a government, this is a man that his father-in-law, the wise father, is an ambassador. He's practicing family and friends. His brother-in-law is a CEO or coordinator or whatever of NADMO. His own brother is a technical advisor to the Minister of Interior. Would these people be part of the 50 or what? I think that we have come a long way as a nation, where everybody should not give politicians a bad name, where we should not just say things because we want to be heard. I think our country is in a very sad state. We are in a situation where politicians cannot afford to do politics as usual. And I'll call on every Ghanaian to begin to hold leaders accountable. You cannot do one thing, and when you need more power, you come and say that everything I've done in the past is wrong, and so you vote for me, and I hope to correct the wrongs.
Thank you very much. So in the coming days, all journalists on the Building Ghana tour are expectant of the response that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will be getting from the flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama. we will still be with the team and continue to bring updates to viewers on Joy News. From Kumasi for Joy News, my name is Nana Aljima.
So from Kumasi in the Ashanti region, we come back. That was Nanaya Ojima interacting with Beatrice Annan. She's with the communications team of the NDC. I'll come to you, Dr. Saad Idrisu, as we get into core areas of what Dr. Bawumia said yesterday. He talks about being a driver's mate. He says he was the driver's mate and now he's in the driving seat. When given the opportunity, he will be in the driving seat and there'll be a difference in what he's been able to deliver. He also talks about an optional national service and what that would mean in terms of companies and others. Whilst other countries, of course, jurisdictions are continuing full steam. Look at South Korea, military training with national service. And then he says, I want to bring them up issue by issue. I'm laying three down your way. He talks about causing to be published contracts, basically. We've seen the PPA issues, we've seen the procurement issues. He says he will cause to be published those contracts for public scrutiny. I say that if we're going to do any such thing, then we should start now with declaration of assets and knowing people's assets and liabilities, which even the media has found very difficult to get to in terms of what people have declared by way of their assets and liabilities. What are your reactions to these before we move on to other matters?
I think the first point to make is that I don't think we have a driver's mate in Ghana. I would say we have 4 drivers in Ghana, which is the president. In the absence of the president, the vice president could act as the president. So if the president travels even for a week...
Dr. Saad, I don't know why, for some reason, I can't hear you so well. Can we do this again?
Is it okay now?
It's still low. You started well and then... But you go ahead. Go ahead.
Is it better now?
It's somewhat better. Go ahead.
Yes. I was saying that we have four presidents in Ghana. Let me put it that way. If the president is not there, the vice president has the authority to act as the president. So if the president travels even for a week, the vice president will make laws or sign anything on behalf of the president because he is acting. In the absence of the vice president, we have the Speaker of Parliament, who is also acting as the president. Then it comes to the Chief Justice. So where is the driver mate coming in? It appears the vice president from the onset wasn't aware of his powers, let me put it that way. And as to whether it is in relation to only he, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, or it has been the case for all vice presidents, I think that is something that as a country, probably we have to look at. If it is in relation to all vice presidents, then we should be looking at constitutional amendments to actually redefine the role of the vice president. But if it is just limited to he as a vice president, then I strongly believe that he underestimated his powers as a vice president. And if you come to the second point, which is the national service, I totally disagree with that policy. Believe me, I feel like the economic advisors didn't think things through before even suggesting such a policy to him. And why would I say that, Ben? If you take the national service, I would say that national service has contributed to maintaining the peace we have in Ghana. Why? Because it has been able to trigger intermarriages. And Ashanti, someone in Kumasi, is sent to Tamale to do national service. He or she ends up marrying them to a Dagomba or another northern. Someone is brought to Volta, someone is brought to Accra. That is one thing. So it has brought about intermarriages, resulting in a more peaceful atmosphere within the Ghanaian community. If you look at national service too, I see it as a poverty reduction strategy. Poverty reduction strategy because it has helped to reduce the inequality, income inequality existing between the poor and the rich. Someone who is able to finish national service, university or wherever in the north or in Bekwai, Asankragua, wherever. Luckily, national service could post that person to Accra, to Cape Coast. That person could even get posted to Parliament. That is an opportunity created for that individual, an opportunity that he or she will have never had in his or her lifetime. So it is a way, it's like this SS placement system, the SHS placement system. Because of that mandatory placement system, people who couldn't even attend Presec, people who couldn't even attend Achimota, they are now able to get access to that. So when you have such a poverty reduction strategy in place, when you have such an income reduction, inequality reduction in place, you don't mess with it. You find ways and means to improve it. Again, the third point about national service to me that I think it shouldn't even be tempered with is that national service serves as the first point of job to most youth in Ghana. You see, the Ghanaian system is not like the advanced system, whereby you are in the university and you are taking jobs outside the university. When I first came, we all did that. I was enrolled in my program at the same time doing menial jobs. So it's part of your CV, you put it. But in Ghana, we don't have that system. So the first job the graduate gets in Ghana is the national service. That is why he or she uses as work experience. And in the system today, even with 1 year work experience, companies don't still want to hire you. So if you make it optional, where will the kids even get that work experience to begin with? And again, there is the tendency of corruption being exposed more, or corruption even increasing in that sector. I'll say currently it is alleged. Let me say alleged because it's not proven. I don't have any facts with that. But it is even alleged that currently, even though postings are mandatory, if people want to get lucrative private sector or even government sector, they have to pay something to get their service changed. So imagine it is not even mandatory anymore, and it is now optional. When you make it optional, you put more powers into the duty bearer, whoever is there as the director or those in charge of the national service, to now dictate whoever they want to post, because it's now optional. So if I apply and I cannot pay whatever they want me to pay, my application could be rejected at that point in time. So are we going backwards, or where are we heading to as a nation? So in my opinion,
Dr. Idrisu, can you hear me?
This is really a bad policy that should not even have been thought of in the first place.
All right, can you hear me, Dr. Idrisu?
You are just doing national service to serve the nation. But
Dr. Saad Idrisu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. For a moment, I thought you couldn't hear me. We're pressed for time. In the next 2.5 minutes, I want you to address, so I can let go of you and deal with Echo Asifwa and then wrap this end of the conversation. The tax component, he talks about tax digitization, which will be implemented in his administration. He talks about, of course, he disowned the 4 key government tax impositions, the e-levy and others, saying that he will scrap them. The question is based on what exactly is he going to scrap them. I want you to focus on these. What are you saying about taxes, among others, and maybe the economy to wrap? What are your quick thoughts on that? And are you convinced that based on what he said, he will be a better leader for Ghana compared to a John Dramani Mahama, compared to even a Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo? Quick thoughts on that, and then we can wrap.
To be honest, before the lecture, I would say that it's like I overestimated the delivery that will have come out. But after the lecture and looking at all the policies that has been outlined, I don't see a major job creation policy for the youth. And that is my problem, or that is my concern, because we are in a challenge of higher unemployment, where the youth even graduate, they are looking for jobs they can get. So if you are bringing out policies, you must bring out policies that will be action-oriented. Let me just give you one example. For example, we have a sanitation problem in Ghana. If any government or any party leader comes out and tells us that, okay, each constituency or each district, I am going to pick 1,000 youth, 5,000 youth as sanitation officers to make sure that that district or that constituency is clean. Multiply that by the number of districts or the number of constituencies. That will give you an approximation of the number of youth that will be employed. This is an action-oriented policy. You are creating jobs for the youth. At the same time, you are helping to deal with the sanitation problem. So whoever reads that policy, whoever takes it, they're able to see a clear-cut situation over there on what the government wants to do for the youth. But looking at all the stuff that we are brought out, Dr. Bawumia brought out, I didn't see a youth-centered policy in that regard. And when it comes to the taxes, Ben, let me just conclude with that. You see, with the taxes, you have a situation whereby the government is already experiencing revenue shortfalls, right? It's good to abolish all the nuisance taxes, the e-levies, the VAT and all that. But when it comes to the tax amnesty, it's a bad policy. They should not even think about that. I say that the tax amnesty is bad because you should rather focus on improving your tax collection mechanism rather than giving tax amnesty to businesses. Remember that the businesses in Ghana, not all of them end up reinvesting their profit. So if you give them tax amnesty, some of them will repatriate their profits out. So the country doesn't benefit from that tax breaks you are given. So in place of that, I would have loved whereby we have probably a payment plan, which is known as the tax payment installment plan, whereby the government will even give them some time. If you are owing 5-year taxes, 3-year taxes, we will give you a payment plan so that Ghana wouldn't lose much revenue in terms of that. Because whichever government that comes into power, you have to take out of the revenue shortfall.
Dr. Idrisu,
so should be out of the situation.
All right, by and large, to what extent were you convinced by the Vice President's message on a scale of 1 to 10? Just give me a figure.
4 over 10.
4 over 10.
And 4 over 10 because of the credit system.
The credit score system.
Policy. The credit score system, that is a good policy. If any government implements it, it will help Ghanaians. If only it is implemented properly, because that is what the advanced countries have been able to use to help consumers. You could buy things on credit. That is the only reason I'm giving the Vice President 4 over 10. It's a good policy, no doubt about that.
All right. And I did mention that, in fact, it's one of the few things I heard him say that I was in support of. Dr. Saad Idrisu, economist, Louisiana Economic Development, thank you very much. And I've been consulted on that, the credit scoring system, and it's a good thing, I believe. But apart from that, I don't really know. Eko Asafua is Member of Parliament for Old Tafo. Eko, on the back of this, do we still have Eko Asafua? Do we have Eko? All right, then. Alan Tremateng has been speaking on these matters, and he says Bawumia can't absolve himself from the economic mess that we find ourselves in, and he has owned it, that when he was trade minister, he was also a part of that mess. What I didn't really hear of, right before we move on, is how to tackle corruption and how to really build our economy, pull it back from the bootstraps in terms of where we are. But we'll have more time. There'll be many more days where we'll be reflecting on the Vice President and what he's had to say. Definitely tomorrow, I'll be looking at that. But for today, we kickstart a new segment on the AM show. It's called AM Exclusive. We'll bring you exclusive interviews, exclusive interactions with people who have something to share. Now today, our first guest is a Member of Parliament for Anyaso Utwom. He's not been given a return ticket, but he had quite a number of things to share with me in terms of politics within the MPP and the way forward. He's Member of Parliament for Anyaso Utwom, Dr. Dixon Adumakukisi. Please enjoy.